Hi, welcome to Keimino, where we help writers build a following for themselves and their stories. We give them the tools that they need in order to create better stories and then the demographic information on their stories to help sell them to producers. We just want to make life easy for you and we want your stories to be told. Hit like, hit subscribe, and join us as we talk about today's topic. I want to talk today about something a little bit different than normal. I'm in the business of helping people achieve their dreams, especially in the indie filmmaking scene. I want to see the best writers come together with the best producers, put their work together, and make great stories. But a lot of times, the biggest thing that stops people from being able to actually chase their dreams is what's going on inside their head. And so I want to talk about this a little bit because it's really, really important. Most people who are chasing their dreams don't believe that they should be successful. They might believe they can be successful, but most believe that they should not be successful. And you can see this because of all the self-sabotage that people go through. I remember when I was starting a company a while back, there were things that I could do that would make me successful, and I was just too scared to do it. And when I really dug into it, I realized that the reason why I wasn't doing it, the reason why I wasn't doing the action steps that I knew I should do, the reason why I wasn't really pushing for it was because I didn't think that I actually deserved to be successful. And this is the change. This is the change that I want you to make. Is when you can make that change to sit there and go, no, I choose to be successful. That's when you will actually start seeing things turn around. But what this is based on is there's an intrinsic value that every human has, and a lot of people don't believe they have it. This is when anxiety, stress, and depression come rushing in. And we don't want that in our lives because it stops us. It stops us from being everything that God's created us to be. Now, my intrinsic value doesn't come from what I think of myself. I'm not a narcissist. I don't think I'm the greatest thing ever. But what I do know is I know what God says about me. I'm a Christian, and the Bible is a very good path for me to know what God says about me because He says that I am loved no matter what I do or what I say. It doesn't change how He loves me. And throughout history, I know the church says a lot of judgmental things about if you do this, you're going to hell. If you do that, you're going to hell. Whatever. I don't agree with that because that's not what the Bible says. But I believe that what God has created me to be and what God has created me to do is far greater than the mistakes I've made or the successes I've made. I heard this quote that said, if I live by their praise, I will die by their criticism. And that is completely true. Because if I live based on how I feel, and I'm just going to go with me for a second, if I live based on how I feel I'm doing, whenever I get a failure, it's going to crumble me. So, as I'm starting this channel, I want it to be known that if I succeed tomorrow and I have 1 million viewers and 1 million subscribers, it's not going to change who I am. And if I fail tomorrow and Keimino dies, that's not going to change who I am either. Because at the real core of who I am, it doesn't matter what people say about me. It doesn't matter what people think about me. It matters what God says about me in the Bible. And that's what I stand on. And that's why I can be successful. Because I'm not holding myself back because I don't deserve to be successful. I'm looking at what the Bible says, and the Bible says it doesn't matter what I deserve. Jesus died for everybody, whether I was a genocidal maniac or someone who tells white lies, or whether I'm the most successful person who's ever lived. That's what the Bible says. So that's what I stand on. What do you stand on? If you failed tomorrow and you weren't able to make rent or mortgage payment, you weren't able to eat, your bank account was robbed and you lost everything, what is it that you stand on? Would that make you crumble? Or would you be able to get up and say, no, this is what I'm worth, this is my value, and I'm going to go after this? Because that is the same mentality that allows you to chase your dreams. If you're chasing your dreams, you're sitting there going, it doesn't matter whether I fail or not, I'm going to go after this. And that's the mentality you need to go for because you need to catch those action steps in order to actually be successful. In acting school, they always told me that if you have 10,000 hours in something, you'll be considered a master of it. but it takes 10,000 hours. I probably got to the 3 or 4,000 hours mark of acting. I didn't get to 10,000 hours. And I have more hours writing now than I do acting. And that's why I love what I'm doing now with Keimino. It's because I'm getting to help people, help writers create a better product. Because it's about their dreams. It's about chasing their dreams. And that's what really matters. Because you were put on this earth for a purpose. And my job is to help you make that purpose. So as we're doing this, as you're going after and you're learning these little tips and tricks that I give you about writing, remember that your intrinsic value is more important than your writing. If you write, like I remember when I wrote my first screenplay, it was 120 pages. It was for a thing called Script Frenzy. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'm pretty sure it's still going. But I wrote my first script with a friend of mine for Script Frenzy. And it was the worst script I have ever read. But the point wasn't quality. The point was to say we actually did it. And that was really, really good for me because it told me I can be successful at this. I love writing and I've never stopped writing since. I've written short film after short film after short film after screenplay. It makes no difference what I'm writing. The idea is you get the hours in, so that you can start realizing, oh, this is what I like about writing. This is how I like to introduce my characters. This is how I love to make my stories flow. And then you get to be like, oh man, I found these little techniques here and there that I want to try out. And then in your next story, you try them out and you find out that they work and some don't. And you'll fail. But more importantly, you'll succeed. More importantly, you'll succeed because you're putting in the hours and you're putting in the heart. I remember when I was in acting, and I've got a lot of stories from acting because that was really when I was actively chasing my dreams a lot more, and but I was still for about a decade almost. I would go to auditions and I would be hopeless, and there was no life in my eyes because I could not do that. I couldn't audition for some reason. It just wasn't in my heart. This character wasn't in my heart and it should have been. And so I couldn't give my authentic self to that character because I had no hope. And that's what I'm talking to you about. Hope. Pick up your hope and put your heart into another script. If you're not just a writer, put your heart in that thing that you're doing. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're writing a script or producing a film or starting a family, you cannot do it properly without hope. Because without hope, you're not connected. And when you're not connected, that's when you fall into problems. So today, I just want to encourage you. And I want to encourage you on really growing your hope. I'll tell you one more story. I was when I was starting acting in acting school, I actually was really, really good at the beginning. But what I was acting for was because I was acting because I wanted to feel wanted. And first of all, spoiler alert, not a good thing. Because I was fine, and then I had this girl that I was head over heels with ask me out on a date. Actually, I can't remember if I asked her or she asked me, but the point was is that we ended up going on a date, and it made me feel so wanted, and I actually became a better actor. The problem was, 4 months later, we broke up. We were no longer dating, and my acting suffered. And I went to my acting coach, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. How do I deal with this as an actor? And he's like, I don't know. The same thing happened to me. My wife left me, and I was never be able to be as successful as I was before that. Because he couldn't tell me because he still had it unresolved. And the only way we can move forward is we resolve it. And the only way we resolve it is by putting our identity in something that is not us, and is not you, and is not the people around us. My value comes from what God tells me, from what God says about me. Where do you find your value? Tell us in the comments. Post post a comment. Let me know where you find your value. I would love to hear it. Subscribe, like, help us get the message across. Share this in wherever you want. And yeah, have yourself a good day. And I look forward to helping you chase your dreams as you move forward into the future. If you have any questions, let me know.